This is a revolution. And, buying and supporting Bitcoin, if we all do it, we're going to change the world. And we're going to do it. I mean, it's going to happen almost, without any one of our individual efforts, because people over time always figure shit out. Everybody thinks you're overpaying. Whenever you go into Bitcoin, you always feel like you're overpaying. But guess what? The power of compounding means that in 5 or 10 years, you'll be really glad you did it. And if you don't, then in 5 or 10 years, you'll be thinking, Christ, now I got to pay $1 million a coin? I could have bought it for 100.
Bitcoin is on track to reach new heights, and those who delay may regret not investing sooner. That's the latest from Larry Lepard, founder and managing partner of Equity Management Associate. He argues that the financial system is broken, with billionaires manipulating the rules while ordinary people face rising costs for essentials like food, gas, and housing. Corporations treat cash like a liability, burning through it with stock buybacks and dividends just to stay afloat. Meanwhile, bonds with negative real yields make saving money seem pointless. Bitcoin, however, offers a solution. It's the only asset that can't be devalued, controlled, or inflated away. Unlike cash and stocks, which lose value over time, Bitcoin preserves and grows wealth. As more people recognize this truth, change becomes inevitable. Stick around until the end of the video to hear Larry Lepard explain how Bitcoin can solve the problems plaguing today's economic system. Before we continue with the rest of the video, do check out daily 5-minute crypto newsletter with all the latest crypto and Bitcoin news. It's a fantastic analysis of on-chain crypto data and breakdowns, and the best part is it's absolutely free. They'll cover expert predictions, breakdowns of on-chain crypto data, and any breaking news you need to know, all in a nutshell. Click the first link in the description and enter your email to join over 50,000 others in becoming a better crypto investor right now.
You understand, most gold people do have it right about the monetary system, and even a guy like Peter Schiff gets the economic side of it correct. Okay, he's an Austrian. He there's nothing I would disagree with his view of the economics. The sad thing is that some people are just stuck in the past and they can't accept that we're going into a digital world and that it's a real innovation and all that kind of stuff. And I would say, to answer your question, Jordan, it feels to me like the gold community is half and half. There are people like me who totally get it, have embraced it. I'm now much more much more Bitcoin than gold. Partly that's just because Bitcoin's gone up so much. I didn't start out there. But, when your asset goes up a ton, it becomes a bigger percentage if you don't buy more gold. And so, we're seeing the gold guys, a lot of them are moving over, and a lot of people who hold both, just like me, there's some sensibility to that. For older people, much older people, gold makes sense because it's sound money. It doesn't have the volatility of Bitcoin. If you're 80 years old and put all your money in Bitcoin, Bitcoin goes down 60%. You're going to feel like jumping out the window. Gold's never gone down 60%. Gold, the biggest drawdown of gold, was right after 1980. It was like 30% or something. Most years gold's up or down, just small numbers. So you don't have that volatility issue. And it does grow in value compared to fiat because it's not getting printed the way fiat's getting printed. So, I've actually kind of viewed my role in this whole movement as being the guy who I was a legitimate gold guy. I still believe in gold. I call it analog sound money. There's nothing wrong with holding it, but Bitcoin's better. And so I've been the guy who's tried to orange pill the gold bugs and say, hey guys, I'm telling you, you got it right, but you need to have some of this too. And here's why, because it's just, as I've said, it's got two adoption curves going on. One, monetary debasement. We're all locked into that. We know that that's going to occur. It has to occur mathematically. But, you've got an adoption curve going on with Bitcoin. Everyone knows what gold is. It's been around 5,000 years. If you want gold, you already knew it was there and you bought it. Not everyone knows what Bitcoin is. And as more and more people learn and understand what Bitcoin is, they're going to buy it with a fixed supply. It's going to just continue to appreciate in price. And it's going up forever, Laura, as the sailor says. And also it's different than gold in one other important respect, and that is that, the supply is capped. The amount of gold on the planet will double in the next 60 years. We grow the gold supply at about 1.7% a year. We grow the Bitcoin supply at about 0.8% a year. And as you know, every 4 years, that gets cut in half. So in, another 3.5 years, it'll be 0.4 and then 0.2. And in 2140, there won't be any more Bitcoin mined. The network will run on fees. So, so it's, I get frustrated when Bitcoiners shit on gold bugs and gold bugs shit on Bitcoiners, because the real enemy here is fiat and the government. The governments have killed a lot of people, fought a lot of useless wars, extracted a lot of taxes, just done a bunch of stuff that, in my opinion, they shouldn't be doing. And they're able to do that because they can print the money. And that allows them to, to spend more than they collect in taxes. Because otherwise, if they tried to tax us, there'd be a revolt. And so they know they can't do that. But since they can print the money, they can get away with the shit. So we need to stop that government ability to print the money. And the way to do that is to make people or encourage people to use, sound forms of money, gold and Bitcoin. I really do believe that the money, the broken money, as Lynn's book is titled, is the broken money really is the cause of so many of our problems. And that if we could get back to a sound monetary unit, a lot of stupidity and bad stuff would go away. If we identify, as you recall in the book, my favorite chart in the book is pretty early on in the book. And you remember the chart that shows from 1800 to present, kind of the inflation rate. Yeah. Well, what you see is from,
before.
Yeah, right. What you see is that you see the inflection point in 71 when we went off the gold standard. I mean, it's just stunning, right? Yes, it just goes vertical. Yeah, almost. And so, we had inflation. Look, we had inflations before. I mean, 1812 war was inflationary, Civil War was inflationary, World War I, II. Every war is inflationary by definition, because you can't tax people enough to pay for it. You have to inflate the money supply. But they always, the war would end, the inflation would be over, we'd revert to the mean, and, things would be okay again. You'd have stable money. When we went off the gold standard at 71, that was a big, big, big deal. And that was really the beginning of the end. And, they've said, some people have done studies, how long do fiat currencies last? And they tend to last and historically, they tend to last about 40 years. And this one's going on about 53 or something, 53 years since we went off off the gold standard. So it's past its due date. And, I think the dollar is going to be replaced by Bitcoin. My father was fortunate and was very tuned into what was going on in technology, and like the scene in The Graduate, plastics. I mean, he said, if I were you, I'd figure out a way to get involved in these microprocessors. This shit's going to be big. And I listened to him. And so I invested in technology, and it worked. I mean, and I watched it change the world. And look, maybe that's why I've been able to kind of make the leap from gold to Bitcoin, because I had a technical background and I invested in the internet when the internet came out, and I could see, to me, investing is very much pattern recognition to me. You see kind of the same things happen over and over. Not the same, but they rhyme, right? And so what happened is the Bitcoin came out. I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. And of course, I fucked up, and I blew it, because there were a bunch of other people who tried to do it in the 80s and 90s. There was, eGold and DigiCash and B-Money and they all failed because they didn't, they hadn't figured it out. They didn't have, they hadn't solved, the Byzantine generals' problem. But and so when Bitcoin first came out, I thought, oh yeah, sure, right, that's going to fail too, because all these others did. A mental heuristic, right? And that's why when Max was talking about it 1 or 2, I was listening to him. I liked Max. He was a silver and gold guy before he was a Bitcoiner. But I was like, shit, Max, no, it's going to fail. But then when it got to $100, I was like, well, hang on a second. Maybe it's not going to fail. Maybe I got to pay attention here. And so I started paying attention. But, I think that technology investing background allowed me to look at it once I started to understand it and I thought it was kind of like, gee, this is just like the internet.
Trump Media and Technology Group has officially filed for a Bitcoin Plus ETF, marking the first time a former U.S. president has been associated with the launch of an ETF. This fund is part of TMTG's new financial brand, TruthF, which aims to offer investment products aligned with Trump's economic vision. This move signals Trump's increasing support for Bitcoin and digital asset. With up to $250 million in assets managed by Charles Schwab and Yorkville Advisors, the Bitcoin Plus ETF could open doors for institutional investors seeking exposure to Bitcoin. Trump has positioned himself as the crypto candidate, advocating for the reversal of SEC rules that restricted crypto custody and pushing for policies that integrate Bitcoin into the broader financial system.
People should go listen to us, give them a shout out on this pod. Go Google Michael Saylor Atlas Society speech 2024 and listen to it. It's about an hour and change. We can Google it and find it. But the point is, and by the way, it was also the fastest growing ETF ever. By orders of magnitude. I recall very clearly when the gold ETF was launched in like 03 or 04, gold was in the $280, $300 price. And that ETF, people continually bought. And that gold went from, $300 up to $1,800 on that ETF. But if you look at the dollar flows into gold over that time frame, there's a fraction of what's gone in. I mean, Bitcoin is much bigger dollar flows, much faster. So it really is, in every way beating gold and what gold did. As I said, one of my sound money friends said to me, and I got this anecdote in the book too. I mean, we were both gold guys, and I think in 2018 he made the switch. He had about 100% of his assets in gold, was retired, and he said, "You know what, Larry, I'm going to Bitcoin. I mean, these guys have got better spears, better weapons. They're trying to. They've got all these young kids. They're quoting von Mises. They read the Bitcoin Standard. I mean, we're going to storm Bitcoin's going to storm the castle. I mean, and I've often said, I say this at conferences. It was tiring for me. It was hard for me. I've been fighting this war forever. I mean, I felt like Don Quixote, tilting at the fiat money windmill. I mean, just, am I a fool? Right? But then, then along comes your generation and Safe's book and a lot of other great events. And it's kind of like, no, hey, you know what? I mean, we're still the underdog, but goddamn, we're winning. And, in fact, I really like our chances. Right. So that's, that's been really fun to see guys like Jack Mallers, for example. I mean, just this young people, totally committed, full of passion, understanding the issue and fighting to make the system better. It's like, wow, that's great. It's really great. And like the work you're doing. I mean, I love these podcasts. I mean, a lot of young guys are doing great podcasts, and, all of it makes a difference. Every mind we can change to understand the problem, then that's another mind that'll help us implement a good solution. I mean, one, you've got, crusaders like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who saw the truckers thing and said, hey, you know what? This is a freedom tool. I really like it. Now he's all the way in. And then two, you've even got kind of guys I don't necessarily like or respect, the corrupt guys like a Larry Fink, who ran BlackRock and used to shit all over it. But, I give him credit. He's not a stupid man. And so he went and he did the analysis, and he realized, and I'm sure the conclusion he came to is, oh shit, like we've all come to, this is inevitable. And I either got to decide, am I going to get on board this and support it and try and figure out a way to make money off it, which is what he's doing, of course, with his ETF, or am I going to be like the Vanguard guy and say, no, this is bullshit, I'm not interested, and lose my job, because, as we know, that CEO of Vanguard, kind of shat all over it. And the next thing you knew, he was out because he missed the whole opportunity. I mean, the fees that BlackRock is earning off the IBIT, ETF, I'll bet they're pretty substantial. I mean, it's a big ETF now. They get 30 basis points. So, but my point is that it is that game theory. I mean, look, you can either decide you're going to figure it out and get on board or not. And, Preston and I talked about this recently. I mean, a lot of people think, my most recent thing I've encountered, I deal with a lot of tradfin normies because those are what my friends used to be, right? Some of them aren't anymore because they hate me for Bitcoin, but the most common thing I hear is, hey, yeah, okay, great, it's working great, but it's $100,000. One, it's going to correct, and they might be right. But two, you bought it so much cheap, and they just can't bear the thought of paying a lot more than I paid for it. And I said, no, you got to flip this on the other side. If there's a fire in a theater and it's filling up with smoke, do you care what you pay to get out the exit? Because that's the actual mental model you should be looking at here. If this thing's going, because I think it's going to $1 million, then it's going to 10 million, then the dollar's worthless, and we buy things in sats. So do you want to have zero of that thing that we're going to use to buy stuff in the future? I don't. I want to own it. And so I, and I say, look, I mean, I've had some great meetings with Max. I love the guy. Hey, Max said, shit, I was pissed off I had to pay $1 or $2 when Trace was buying it for 50 cents, Trace Meyer. Right. And so everybody thinks you're overpaying. Whenever you go into Bitcoin, you always feel like you're overpaying. But guess what? The power of compounding means that in 5 or 10 years, you'll be really glad you did it. And if you don't, then in 5 or 10 years, you'll be thinking, Christ, now I got to pay $1 million a coin. I could have bought it for 100.
Technology constantly evolves, just like the wheel and the printing press. Each innovation has reshaped how people live. Bitcoin is no different. It's the next step in the evolution of money. Traditional finance is broken, and corporations are burning through cash as a result. Governments once held the power to block alternative currencies, but with the Bitcoin ETF now approved, that door is shut. This move allows institutional money to flow into Bitcoin just like stocks, speeding up its adoption at a rate faster than gold ever experienced. Those who continue to ignore it are running out of time. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.